the WWE, which he isn't. There are so many great wrestlers you have on the new talent initial roster in 2015 that you could put in the same position of a Seth Rollins, but you're keeping putting them in the proverbial back burner and in the proverbial corner because Seth Rollins is always the man in your opinion, and you believe for some ludicrous reason, some delusional reason, that he's the future of the WWE. Because believe me when I tell you, after seeing what Seth Rollins can do in the ring, he is a talented and very gifted and extremely gifted wrestler. But he's not the most entertaining wrestler you can put on the microphone, no matter how many times you have him out there insulting celebrities, which was obviously a dead giveaway that Seth Rollins was going to be rewarded and come out of WrestleMania 31 with cashing in the briefcase and winning the championship, especially because he only had about 2.5 months left on the contract to cash in before the contract became invalid, and he became the first wrestler in the history of the Money in the Bank briefcase to actually cash in during a match at WrestleMania 31. It's bad enough that Seth Rollins cashed in, becoming the first to do so at WrestleMania, but to also become the first to do so cashing in during an actual match to change the concept of the match from one-on-one to a triple threat match, that really pissed me off. It was bad enough in the fallout of WrestleMania 31 that Sting was defeated by Triple H. That really pissed me off. You brought a legend like Sting into WWE and you kicked him in the fucking face. There was no need of doing that, and you capped it off by having the future culminate with Seth Rollins curb-stomping Roman Reigns into the mat after he came so close within inches of defeating Brock Lesnar. And here comes Seth Rollins with the Money in the Bank briefcase, cashes it in, and capitalizes on an opportunity to culminate the future by winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And what are we left with in the fallout of WrestleMania 31? Roman Reigns is feuding with the Big Show, and Seth Rollins is going to be defending the title against Randy Orton over the next couple of weeks, possibly up to 2 or 3 pay-per-views in this program between Randy Orton and Seth Rollins, which there is no need of. Not entertained by this. I don't see this getting numbers at all. That's the thing about Seth Rollins. I know that's the thing about the Money in the Bank briefcase, the unpredictability that's gone with the briefcase over the years. We have seen everybody from Edge to RVD to Mr. Kennedy to people that are Kane, who have had the Money in the Bank briefcase, cashing it in over the years, affiliating it with so much unpredictability. Nobody knew when the briefcase was going to be cashed in, and this year's WrestleMania was no exception, with Seth Rollins coming from out of nowhere to cash in the briefcase like so many have done before him, but he's just not an entertaining champion. If this was someone who was entertaining as a champion, if he was even just as entertaining as much as what The Miz was when he was champion, even a quarter of how much entertaining he was like The Miz in 2011, 2012 as champion, then I would be more acceptant of the Seth Rollins being champion. But this guy has still got a long way to go, and he's even got more to prove because he hasn't beaten anyone, in my opinion. He had a phenomenal cage match with John Cena. Here's the thing about Seth Rollins. If given the opportunity to showcase his talent in the right match against the right opponent, Seth Rollins is a phenomenal wrestler. I mean, take a look at that cage match he had with John Cena near the end of 2014. Yes, Brock Lesnar may have interfered to promote himself and John Cena at the Royal Rumble the following year to kick off 2015 before it was changed into a triple threat match. But I think it was at that moment that WWE really realized the potential that went with Seth Rollins' character, and that's why they changed John Cena versus Brock Lesnar in their final chapter match at the Royal Rumble from that to being a triple threat match, because they recognized the potential that went with Seth Rollins' character. And if you put Seth Rollins in the ring against someone like a CM Punk or a Daniel Bryan, his talent is definitely showcased above and beyond the requirements of a wrestler who performs day in and day out with WWE, week in and week out, for live television shows, tapings, and pay-per-views. Seth Rollins is someone who can get the ratings if put in the right place at the right time. And really, what happened at WrestleMania 31 was him just being in the right place at the right time. It pissed me off the piece of shit got it the way he did, because in my opinion he wasn't ready to be WWE World Heavyweight Champion, but WWE believed from a creative perspective that he was, because they believe they have to create superstars for tomorrow, because names like The Undertaker and Sting are names you can't always rely on for 1 or 2 matches every year. I understand that concept of having to create a superstar, but because Seth Rollins is in the position that he's in now, so many superstars are being put on the proverbial back burner and nobody is being given an opportunity. We have to create superstars, yes, because names like John Cena are contemplating leaving the company, and you can't always rely on John Cena and Randy Orton after giving us 12 or 13 years of a run with the company. You can't always rely on Brock Lesnar, who is still suspended. But the thing is, Seth Rollins, I think, is just jumping to a conclusion. It's just an excuse to have someone different as a champion, and there's no way he could measure up against a talent like Brock Lesnar. If Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar ever went one-on-one for the championship, which I think is probably going to happen if Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar cross paths between now and over the next 2-month period if Brock Lesnar comes back off suspension sooner than what we think, which could be as early as the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, given how much hatred there is between Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, especially with what happened at WrestleMania 31 and Brock Lesnar going public with the announcement on SportsCenter, which is a video I posted on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HEW Entertainment for you to check out, of how he re-signed with WWE, not wanting to wait until after WrestleMania to reveal that, and recently getting a match with Seth Rollins, which resulted in Brock Lesnar being suspended so he could go away and go elsewhere with his career and deal with what he had going on outside of the business. Once this is all of the way for Brock Lesnar, how long is it going to be before you think Brock Lesnar is going to want to get his hands on Seth Rollins? Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins is a pay-per-view match waiting to happen, and we're probably going to see Randy Orton and Seth Rollins program last for 2 or 3 more pay-per-views, at least until Payback, before Brock Lesnar returns, with the earliest time Brock Lesnar could return being either the Money in the Bank pay-per-view or not until SummerSlam. So Seth Rollins, we're pretty much stuck with him as champion for a significant amount of time, especially with him allowing that he's going to be champion for a very long time. That brings me back to how I believe he resembled CM Punk's character. Didn't CM Punk say to interim Raw general manager that he was going to be champion, John Laurinaitis, for a very long time when CM Punk won the title in 2011, 2012, and he came through with his prediction of being a champion for 434 days. A couple of days after winning the championship, Seth Rollins told us all, you better get used to it because I'm going to be champion for a very long time. CM Punk told John Laurinaitis, interim Raw general manager, eventually permanent Raw general manager at that point, that he was going to be champion for a very long time. And just their styles and the presentation of their characters resemble each other so much, it's truly frightening, which is why I think there's really no need to have a CM Punk knockoff, a CM Punk replacement, if anything, in the position of a CM Punk or a Randy Orton. What position Seth Rollins is in right now is a position John Cena or Randy Orton could easily be fitting into, and it's ridiculous how we had to put up with Seth Rollins as champion in the fallout of the worst and most pathetic WrestleMania I have ever seen as a wrestling fan. This by far has to have been the worst WrestleMania fallout since WrestleMania either 27 or 22. Now, the other WrestleManias in between were pretty exceptionally put together, but I think WrestleMania 22 and 27 are the closest resemblances to what happened at WrestleMania 31, and this is the first disaster, this first clusterfuck ever since WrestleMania 22, or at least 27. For the better part of the last 4 years, this is the most depressing and most disappointing WrestleMania I have ever witnessed in my life. I think it was a waste of money for people who subscribe to it on satellite and digital cable, and even more so, even though it was significantly cheaper on the WWE Network for the over 1 million subscribers the network has, with it always going up. I really feel for you if you had to suffer through WrestleMania 31, even more so with the commentary of Michael Cole for those 4 hours, one of the worst sporting events that I've ever seen in my life, WrestleMania 31, and I'll continue to review it very negatively until something is done about things like we saw with Sting and Triple H, with Sting being kicked in the face and Seth Rollins coming from out of nowhere with the briefcase. Again, I understand the concept of the briefcase being so unpredictable, with so many before Seth Rollins doing the same thing, Edge, Rob Van Dam, Mr. Kennedy, The Miz, taking advantage of opportunities that have been put in front of them, and every one of them have capitalized on this opportunity and done it with very few being able to do it. John Cena and Damien Sandow, the only two individuals who have ever cashed in the briefcase and been unable to capture a championship. John Cena had a cash down on him by Damien Sandow in a phenomenal match where Damien Sandow came so close to winning the WWE or World Heavyweight Championship at that point in time. I can't remember what championship it was for. I think it was the World Championship at that point in time, and there was so much potential that went with Damien Sandow. What happened there, I don't know. I could understand John Cena cashing in and losing more than I could Damien Sandow because of the potential his character had at that point in time. And there still is so much potential with people like Damien Sandow. But again, while you have someone like Seth Rollins on top all the time, stealing the credit and stealing the proverbial thunder, chances for Damien Sandow, Wade Barrett, Daniel Bryan, and Dolph Ziggler, which I have no fucking idea what happened to. Somewhere along the way, WWE lost the faith they had last November in Dolph Ziggler after he was the sole survivor for Team Cena against Team Authority at Survivor Series last year, back in 2014. They lost potential somewhere along the way with Dolph Ziggler. Again, Seth Rollins taking opportunity after opportunity after opportunity away from names who could be in the same position, the same spot of a Seth Rollins and be champion here in 2015. And the funny thing is, the pissed off thing that I'm more pissed off about than anything is the fact we're just near the halfway point of 2015, and what the fuck has happened this year that has actually been revolutionary to the business? You know, I go back to 2014 and Triple H's claims of how, 2014 was supposed to be a year unlike any other year we had ever witnessed as wrestling fans. What happened to that? 2014 had nothing happen in it. Nothing was showcased in 2014. The most pivotal points in 2014 were the ending of The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak for the first time in 2 decades at the expense of Brock Lesnar, 3 F5s, and a concussion, Daniel Bryan winning the championship from Randy Orton and Dave Batista, and the severance of the Shield and the 3 Shield members, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose, going their separate ways. And nothing was done with at least 2 of the Shield members. I'm talking about Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, with Seth Rollins seemingly being the only one to benefit because Triple H, the almighty game, the almighty King of Kings, the almighty executive authority in WWE, believed that Seth Rollins was the future of WWE. Going back to the hot headline in the video for this week, Seth Rollins is the future in his own mind, and I really think that Seth Rollins is nothing but the future in his own mind, and something really needs to be done about the championship picture we have in WWE, both about who the champion is and both about who is chasing the championship, because Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins is only being done, in my opinion, because Seth Rollins can't measure up. He can't match the skills of someone who is significantly bigger than what Seth Rollins is, who is significantly more stronger and faster than what Seth Rollins is. So the only one that can measure up to Seth Rollins is Randy Orton, or that Seth Rollins can measure up to, rather, is Randy Orton. And that's why we're seeing Seth Rollins and Randy Orton go one-on-one. Some of you may believe that it's because of what happened between Seth Rollins and Randy Orton, because Randy Orton was excommunicated out of the authority last November. But believe me when I tell you, from a political standpoint, the only reason this match is going down at Extreme Rules and could be going down for the next 2 to 3 pay-per-views is because Seth Rollins can't measure up to a Brock Lesnar, and WWE knows